गुलाबी मुखड़ी केवली छजीरे नाक की नथुनी केवली छजीरे नाक.
Welcome to Himalayan Echo's digital edition. The session title in discussion with food chronicler Rushina Munsho Gildial and Master Chef Jatin Malik is Himalayan Superfood Hyperlocal Cuisines. I'm looking forward to hearing about your culinary experiences and gaining insights from both of you today. As a Pahari, I've grown up hearing about the health benefits of eating madua roti, jungar bhat, cooking hari saag in an iron wok, eating nutrient-rich dals like bhat, gehet, tempered with jambu, and savoring quaint vegetables like fiddlehead ferns, rich in antioxidants and minerals to boost the immune system. There are so many superfoods that are grown and consumed locally. And I'm therefore very excited to be here today for this session, to be in conversation with you, hear about your culinary journeys, creating gourmet experiences with superfoods, culinary chronicling, and the idea of not just hyper local, but also global, making the food industry more sustainable. So welcome, Jatin and Rushina, both of you. Let's start with talking about your culinary journeys over the years. You both have such a successful career in this field. Jatin, you've created New Delhi's iconic restaurant Threz, and Rushina, you're the country's pioneering food blogger, food consultant, and a culinary chronicler. When did both of your journeys begin, and what inspired you to take this path?
I think ladies first.
Well, first of all, I must come and visit Tres now that I've read so much about it. I haven't been to Delhi in a very long time. So
all right, you're forgiven. Since you haven't been to Delhi in such a long time, so you're forgiven.
And next I'm dying to come. There's so much stuff happening there.
It is. I think lots happening, but look forward.
So quickly, because I can be very, very long about telling my story, but just quickly, I'm not trained in either hospitality or journalism. Both were, the career of food writing found me entirely inadvertently. I took to it really well. And I basically self-taught my way through a whole bunch of things. I started out as a food writer. Then I added food blogging to my list of introducing myself in different ways. Then I went on to start my own culinary consulting company. I opened one of India's first kitchen studios and shut it in 2019 of December. I ran it for 8 years. I am now in the process of transitioning into a different phase of my career, which is that of chronicling and documentation. I intend to restart the studio in a different avatar, more of an incubator for small businesses and an idea lab. And yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. I've been in the business wearing various hats for almost 21 years, 22 years actually, yeah.
Lovely. And we'll hear more about that as we go along, and especially the chronicling bit. Jatin, what about you?
All right. I am a trained professional chef and been a chef for a little over 20 years now. But I didn't become chef purely out of wanted to be a chef. I had no idea about what a chef is all about. But like a typical Punjabi boy, a typical Punjabi household where food was a very integral part of everything. Definitely, it was not all that gourmet fancy food, but food. I'm from a very Kashmiri background, so Kashmiri food played a lot of role. Being a army kid, so whole little pudding, barbecues were part of the whole growing up scene. So I was pretty involved in food. I was very curious about food. And then it came a choice as a career. I think the whole fascination of food sort of intrigued me. I was curious about it or what it is. And then I had a little chat with a couple of people before taking as a career. And my grandfather sort of guided me through it. And he guided me to some people where I had a conversation with them where they told me what this industry is about. And back in the day, it was all about working for hotels and being part of one of the big chains and being secure about it. Well, my culinary journey started through that, where I was purely out of mistake, purely out of an accident, but it was mostly led by my father's thought that whatever career you choose, try to excel in it. And that sort of stayed with me. And that till now, that's part of my whole approach in whatever I try to do. Well, I've been a chef with various couple of hotel chains, then I've worked in Europe, learned the ropes there, figured out what's the whole scenario of food is about. And then I'd seen a transition happening in the food scene in India in somewhere around mid 2000, 2005, 2007. That whole scene was moving towards standalone restaurants, and restaurants were evolving up. People were getting more and more out of the whole five-star cultures. More and more concepts were coming up. A lot of scene was developing into cafes, bistros, and Indian restaurants and takeaways, and all that boom was happening, and food was getting sort of defined. And that sort of fascinated me. And I said, okay, why not I take a plunge and be an entrepreneur? And in 2012, I started Tress. And well, it's been a roller coaster journey, ups and downs about it. We've been pandemic, pre-pandemic, learning the ropes of being an entrepreneur and learning the ropes that, okay, fine, it's just not good food, which probably brings people in. There's lots of things which go into it. So, well, I think the hair loss can be blamed to that. And so far, well, it's been a great ride. It's been a great ride. Absolutely fascinating and exciting.
Right. No, exciting times. We're going to dig a little deeper. Jatin, you describe your way of cooking as style from different parts of the world, and yet you remain rooted in the local in your approach, substituting imported ingredients with seasonal produce from local vendors, making the process more sustainable. In fact, your motto at Trez is "Let's get local." So, could you tell us about this?
So, when I started my career, I just wanted to be a chef. As I grew up, I sort of wanted to specialize in a certain type of cuisine. As I grew, I realized that a particular cuisine is not my calling. So I did a lot of Oriental food. I did a lot of Indian food. I did lots of coastal. I spent a lot of time down south. And suddenly I realized that I've sort of developed as a professional where I like to play with ingredients. I like to play with flavors. I like to play with techniques. And this whole thing, when we were doing our own restaurant, and that's the time, like we didn't want to do any cuisine-centric restaurant. We didn't want to do a particular genre of food. We wanted to do food which is flavorful, where we as chefs can lend our expertise to ingredients, treat them well, sort of put in our expertise on it, put up our culinary experience behind it, and make something out of it. And that purely led to that. Why are we looking for something which is coming from Europe, or something which has to come from Australia, or something which has to come from far out? Why not look into our ecosystem and lend our expertise to it, put our experience behind it, and treat it, and then see what comes out of it? And that was the pure ethos with which we operated. We opened Press. Until now, that is our motto, where we try not to go far out. We've got a beautiful coastline. We've got great stuff happening from the hills. We work with great like Mushroom Research Institute in Solan. I remember we used to get some prawns there, and we used to grow our own shiitake. Portobello, I remember now it's abundantly available. Earlier, 8-9 years back, I remember sending some samples, growing it, trying it, putting my hands on it, how it works, working with some potato farmers, trying to grow some potato crop. And sort of that has been our motto, that we do not want to get too much of produce which is not local. Our focus is to get local produce. We use a lot of bhat dal in our restaurant. We use those white rajma, which is the cannoli beans, or whatever you want to call it, the Pahadi rajma. We use even hemp for that matter. We use timur. So these are some of the ingredients we use. I said, but our ecosystem has so much to offer. And I, as a chef, need to lend my expertise to it to make it interesting.
That's really wonderful. Moving on to Rushina, you've written a wonderful book, A Pinch of This, A Handful of That. which is a food diary and a collection of recipes of the choicest family dishes. There are food memories and stories associated with each of these dishes. And in fact, you're working on a similar book on Uttarakhand. Could you read or share some of your favorite food memories with us of this writing journey?
Oh, absolutely. And actually, it's the perfect time to talk about this because I've actually been working on that book on Uttarakhand food for almost 20 years. It's where my career started from in food writing. But it's taken its time, and I'm kind of glad because through this pandemic, I spent most of the pandemic most of the pandemic, I was in Uttarakhand. And it gave me a chance to actually live in the ecosystem of the mountains. While I've been working on the book all this time, it was always through these 10-day trips that we used to take during holidays and stuff because life was in Bombay. And living there for almost more than a year and a half gave me a chance to get into the food cycle of the year, ingredients as they come on the plate. I got hands-on experiences of making specific things that are typical to Uttarakhand food with the women in my family. So like my mom-in-law is actually a bastion of some really heirloom recipes. She and her sisters today are carrying forward traditions passed down from her parents and earlier. So, the thing with Uttarakhand food is it's just coming into its own. A lot of our, it's a sort of what I call a caricature of a cuisine at the moment, because there are certain highlights that everyone talks about, the chesu, the udad, the rajma, the hemp, the jakia, all. But as I've been studying it, I've realized that Uttarakhand food is not one cuisine. It's many micro-regional cuisines that make up the fabric of Uttarakhand cuisine. And we in Uttarakhand are just beginning to discover that. My mom-in-law's family comes from a region in Tingri. And there are certain signature dishes that she brought into the family of my father-in-law. One of them that is very, very unique to our cuisine is the nal badi. I don't know if you guys have ever come across it, but so and you
don't get that here now. Even locally, they make the other buddies, but not the nal buddies. I talk to people. It's lost in a way.
Yeah, it is. And the thing is, you get a commercial version. So I'll tell you, Jatin, but essentially the commercial version that's available in the bazaar is nothing like what my mom and her sisters make. It's basically, the badi paste is basically coated on colocasia stems. So Arabi ki jo stems hoti hai, patte ka patiud banta hai, और stems को उड़द की पेस्ट में कोट करते हैं, उसको सुखाते हैं. And this was a sort of a sustenance food for when you didn't get fresh vegetables or, in the monsoons or the winters. Yeah. And now the thing is, it's not easy to make, which is why the commercial one just doesn't sort of hit the right note, because it's too much of the dal paste and too little of the stems. And this time when I was there, I actually made them with my mom-in-law, and I realized the nuances of making them. Like it's so eco-friendly, right? So the stems are knotted together at the narrow end. They're hung on a clothesline, and then it's not very easy because your udad paste has to be the right consistency.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.